just begun. How can I keep you? And gold can never rival your touch or haunting smile. But if I turn away, how can I make you stay? And I can't hold on long, time pulls me on. But if I look away, you're gone. My love, are you coming back? And if I grab you by the stem, will rock creep in again?
Hey, how you doing? Today we're looking at some Japanese heavy metal and rock, starting off with 7-inch Kodomo band Heart of Madness. So this is from the movie, I think it was called Fist of the Northern Star. The Kodomo band aren't really metal or anything, they're kind of just sort of 80s synth rock, Japanese style. But the movie was very metal. It was sort of an unusual movie. It's got a paper insert just with the lyrics to the two songs. A little bit of English. These are pretty pricey to find, you know, they're not cheap. Not bad condition either. So I'm slowly collecting all these singles from the movie. I've got probably one more to go. So Kodomo band, they started 80 and they just put out a whole bunch of albums until 88. They're very colourful album covers, you know, they look sort of like a new wave band, and the vocal is very prominent in the mix, but the guitar, you know, it's sort of like that heavy metal distortion sort of comes through. Sounds good. So it was a comic first, published from 83 to 88. It was all about post-apocalyptic Earth after a nuclear war, and you know, sort of a warrior society develops, and you know, you got good guys and bad guys. So the manga was adapted into 2 anime TV series that were on TV from 84 to 88 in Japan. 152 episodes. So you probably would have heard these 2 songs on TV for, you know, the 4 years that it was aired on TV. Right, next up we've got a couple of sort of punk metal bands. So the first one is Doom. So this is an album that I buy from time to time, No More Pain. If you can get it with the original single inside, it's a flexi disc, it's worth, you know, about $100 in Japan. Overseas probably a lot more. So put it on side B. Sort of alternative heavy metal for the 80s. Japan, you know, sort of had a pretty good crossover genre of heavy metal. But they were just a 3-piece called Doom. And this one, I think it came out about 86, 87. Really good artwork, you know, Japanese, strange artwork. The album is called No More Pain, and this is the title track. So yeah, I recently sold this to Kim from This Is Music channel, and picked it up again just the other night. So yeah, it's a good album, it's worth keeping. The single, like I said, is a flexi disc, but it came with the album back in the day. So it's got the song Why and Last Stand to Hell. So those songs do not appear on this album, which is their debut album. So they're probably, you know, from cassettes and, you know, demos that the band put out pre-debut album for the fans. But yeah, it's very sort of interesting music. It's it doesn't sort of go in the direction you'd expect it to. You can hear with this song. very melodic in places. So yeah, band Doom, you know, Discogs calls them a psycho-metallic fusion group. Started in '84, they're still around. And this came out in '87. Alright, next up we got Gastunk. So this is their debut album, but a reissue. So their first album came without the Orbi strip, but it got re-released a few years later. So it's called Dead Song. I'll put it on side A. Pretty hard to get this one with the Orbi strip. It's got the songs on the front of the Orbi. Always good artwork on their albums. So this song is in Japanese kanji. Yeah, it's similar time, I think sort of probably mid 80s, but then it got reissued late 80s. Comes with a smaller papered insert, you know, often these are missing. Got all the lyrics. All the songs have English titles, but they're sung pretty much in Japanese. Alright, next up, something a bit different. It's one of those albums that you buy by accident here in Japan. You think it's going to be metal. I've actually got two for some reason. But it's a guy called Masanori Sera. And he's basically just an 80s rock and roller. And you know, he reminds me a little bit of Bruce Springsteen even. But he has a bit of synth in his music. So the album has kind of got him with a massive snake tattoo on his back. He's even got a face tattoo. And yeah, you think it's going to be metal. It sort of, you know, starts promising. Insert a mold. He put out heaps and heaps of albums in the 80s, you know, one a year, maybe more. But this is what you get. It's kind of that sort of rock and roll, synthy music. It's not terrible. You probably have to be Japanese to really enjoy it though. So yeah, I'll put both of these in a box of records to sell. Alright, next up, recently picked up Starless again. So these guys are sort of, they're called Neo Frog, but you know, 80s heavy rock with some keyboard. A female singer by memory, Yoshiko Miyamoto. That must be her. They're a really good band. They didn't put out a lot of stuff, but they're one of those cult bands that, you know, everybody loves and really valuable to have their stuff. This should have an Orbi strip, but even without it, it's still worth a lot of money. Can't sit around anymore. Interesting artwork, sort of, you know, like that 70s fantasy sort of artwork. I read somewhere that the band's name Starless was probably inspired by King Crimson. Yeah, she's got like an awesome voice, you know, just what the music needs. You got the Japanese insert. Glossy insert. The credits there, it says who Starless are, and it says the bass player Jutaro Okubo, he's the leader of the band. That's his band. It's great music. So this one came out December 85. The Obi strip is sort of like a brownish looking color. And the album, I think, translates to Silver Wings. Yeah, on Discogs they go from 40 to 80 here in Japan. Not a cheap one. If you bought it when it came out, there was a B2 size poster included as a pre-order bonus, which was listed on the front of the Obi. You'd send away and get it. So probably, you know, if you get that poster with the Obi, you're looking at big money for this album. So the band Starless, they put out a, I think, not on label album in 84, and this was their first true album that came out, 85. Then their next thing was 1991, Unpublished Live Selections. And then in the 90s they had a couple of albums that came out, probably with a different lineup. So sort of, yeah, just one true album really. Alright, last three albums I've got to show are Loudness that I've picked up recently. So I'm starting off with their first one, Birthday Eve. Picked it up with the Obi, so I already had it, but minus the Obi. On side two. You get the little demon child in the crystal egg. This was their debut album, so the first three albums had this little child growing up. And they had a bit of a connection to Akira's solo album that he debuted, because it had that Jaguar on the front. So some of these albums have a picture of a Jaguar. Yeah, the insert's got a really big info sheet and then their lyrics. It calls them New Wave British Heavy Metal. Yeah, they did that Monsters of Rock cruise or whatever recently in America, and Akira was so popular. So a lot of Americans are buying Loudness vinyl now. So these originals are worth a bit, even though they're not really, you know, using amazing English. This song is called To Be Demon. The singer is Minoru Mihara. I like his voice. So it's called The Birthday Eve. I think it translates to, in Japan, the night before birth. That's how they say it. We say Birthday Eve. So Japan first pressing. It just came with that 4-page insert. So this is complete. So these can go anywhere, you know, from 30 to 70. Probably, you know, in mint you'd be looking at 100. But yeah, this first album is a little bit, you know, their sound is a bit mixed. You know, some of it's like this. They remind me, yeah, their early stuff reminds me a lot of the Scorpions, you know. Sort of hard rock, not always heavy metal. So next up we got Devil Soldier, part 2 of that little kid growing up. So he's hatched out of the egg, and it's him on the back. So wonder if, you know, these the first three albums were recorded pretty much together, then they split them up. Because they sound very close, you know, same sound. Back of the Obi's got a lot of loudness stuff. Akira's first album, and then other Japanese artists of the time. This time you've got a glossy insert. Yeah, so it's a little kid on the Jaguar, so you know that's a throwback to Akira's debut album. I think that he put that out after he left the band Lazy. So you got the band, and I noticed today, I think it might be the drummer. He's got a picture on his t-shirt of somebody with a swastika on their jeans. People would be cut up about that these days. So it came out 82, 1 year later, and these ones are a little bit more expensive than the previous album. They can go, you know, up to 110 here in Japan. Right, last album is Loudness Live. So I don't really collect live albums, but this one's very collectible, so I had to grab it. So yeah, it's called 8186 Live, so it's, you know, all their live shows put together, and it's got the Obi plus the single that came out with it, which is pretty hard to find. Yeah, I've had this album many times, but never ever with the Obi strip. It's pretty shocked to find it with it. And the inside of the Obi's got their Japan tour dates for 86. So they were touring November, December. A good picture of the band up here on the right. And it comes with a single which is really hard to get it with, and it's got Risky Woman, which, you know, that was a 12-inch EP or single. And then on side B you've got Mr. Yes Man. So it's a 2 vinyl LP album with a 7-inch 45 RPM single, and yeah, it's a first pressing. So price wise you're looking at $100. I wouldn't let this go for under that as a package. It's called 81 to 86, so obviously some of the songs are from early shows, so it would be worth probably researching that. Yeah, pretty happy with this, so hope you liked the video. Next video will probably be more shred guitarists from the 80s, so hang out for that. See you next one.
But if I turn away